I swallowed the whole thing. I didn't spit a drop.
Okay, yeah, that's actually going to be the cold open for this episode. Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm gay and homophobic.
And this week, we celebrate Pride with the 2022 rom-com Fire Island. Before we go trundling through the meat rack, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, or following us on Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
By the time our listeners hear this, Pride Month will be over, but how was your Pride?
Prideful. I went to Baltimore Pride. It was nice. They're cute. I got Old Bay. They handed out Old Bay at Pride, which was really fun.
That's the most Maryland thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
which is very good.
Yeah, no, I've seen the McCormick factory. You smell the Old Bay when you go to that area. Yeah, it's pretty good. How was it for you? As famously, you are surrounded by queers constantly.
It seemed like everyone was having a good time given the circumstances, so I'm happy for them.
That's all we can really aim for, I think.
Mm-hmm. So Leyla, you know, we wanted to try to do something to celebrate Pride for our podcast. How did you first get introduced to Fire Island?
That's a great question. How did I first? What happened? Oh, so 2022. This movie came out in 2022. This was like peak. So I just moved back to Buffalo the year before. Oh, hold on. Let me actually think through this. How did I hear this fucking movie? Oh, okay, yeah. So this movie came out in 2022, and in 2022, I was just extremely online and by myself and going through one of my biannual deep loneliness depressions, and then Joel Kim Booster, who I enjoy, and Bowen Yang, who I also enjoy, were advertising this movie, which is a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. I fucking love Pride and Prejudice, and I had a Hulu subscription at the time. So I was like, fuck it. Nice way to spend, whatever the runtime is, 90 minutes. And I do think I like the movie less on rewatch, but I don't dislike it. I was just not as hot on it as I have been, where I was telling everybody they need to watch Fire Island because it's a really good adaptation. I think I've told people it was the best adaptation since the 2005 one. I rescind that. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
Yeah.
But I hope you had at least a little fun, because I think you and I both suffered through the beginning.
Yeah, we'll talk about the first part of it, which was grating to some degree, but I definitely warmed up once the whole character momentum started moving. Yeah, I mean, I like rom-coms. I think when this movie is doing rom-com stuff, it works really well. And when it is doing queer stuff, I don't know that it works as well. But maybe that's because I'm a straight guy and this isn't, necessarily for me. But we'll talk about it. I'm glad it exists, certainly.
I agree. There was a movie I'm thinking of. It's a Billy Eichner gay rom-com, and I remember it got eviscerated, and I haven't watched it, but it's one of those things where I think it is good to have mid-queer rom-coms. Not everything needs to be either hyper-dramatic tragedy or the love story of all time. So I am glad that I got to watch a mid-queer rom-com and have about as much fun as I did when we watched, fucking Valentine's Day, or
sure.
Whatever the fuck we've been up to.
Right, yeah. Let's put a pin in that idea of we should be allowed to enjoy mid-queer stories and media, because I think that'll come back here at the end with our talking points if we don't get to it during the major course of the episode. But I think it's my turn to do the plot summary.
I will offer you an opt-out. If you're because this is an extremely gay movie with a lot of bizarre shit in it, so you can punt this one back to me if you would like.
I did make you do basically all of S.S. Rajamouli's filmography, though, which feels like, maybe you could just help me along.
This is cultural exchange is what this is.
Right, yeah, you know, you learn Indian stories, I learn queer stories. This is what the right is afraid of.
Which, by the way, before we get into it, we do need to acknowledge SS Rajamouli is in Death Stranding too.
Yeah, you can't hear our Death Stranding original episode because we weren't nice to it, but you know, we have watched Death Stranding and talked about it before, and you know what? I'm just fucking happy that the homie SS Rajamouli got in there. You know, I disagree with a lot of Hideo Kojima's work, but the man knows how to make what he wants to make. I'll give him that. I
would pay full $70 AAA game price for an SS Rajamouli Hideo Kojima collab game. I would suffer. I would guaranteed suffer, but I want
the treatment
that.
Of women would be despicable.
Yeah, but I want it. You know what I mean? As like a cultural, I want it as a study. So,
and
yeah,
I would pay $100 for it. Yeah. Also,
yeah, 100%. You know, or we could go 50-50 and just, you know, password exchange, but it doesn't matter. Like we would play the full thing.
Yes. Anyway,
let's talk about Fire Island.
So this movie opens with the Pride and Prejudice. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a man in possession of a fortune must be in want of a wife line, right? And then Joel Kim Booster, who plays Noah, who is like the protagonist, is like, well, the queen was wrong about one thing because I don't want a wife. And he wakes up and there's like this guy in his bed. And he's like, all right, you gotta, it was nice to have sex with you, but you gotta get out of here. And he opens by saying, like, you know, that might have looked harsh, but that guy had boyfriend energy, and I don't want a boyfriend, basically. And I was like, ooh, you're very annoying, sir. You know, to kind of steal a line from later on in the movie. You know, you're not hot enough to be that annoying, buddy. I've just met you. And you know, it's fine, right? That's kind of the point of this sort of abrasive opening, is to be like, okay, Noah is kind of a fuckboy, I guess, if that sort of thing. I'm sure that sort of thing exists in the queer community.
Oh yeah,
but like he's not a fuckboy. He just wants to have fun and sleep around, which is completely fine.
He's the ethical slut.
Yeah, right. That's true. A book that gets name dropped during this movie.
Yeah. He is a time capsule. This movie, I think you made a note of this. The 2022 of this movie really hit me. Because 3 years ago, we did all kind of talk like this because we were all just kind of absorbing all this new vocabulary. And then we hadn't like figured out how to not be annoying about it. And probably that is why Donald Trump won. But it's just like such an extremely 22 movie in the amount of like, oh, well, this is just like cis heteronormativity, like at its finest or whatever, like extremely 2022 dialogue.
So I think that might actually be true. I'm going to say this, is that this is a movie that comes out post-COVID, right? But it means it was listen, you know, post-COVID, as much as it, you know, the fucking 3 weeks of lockdown that some people experienced.
Yeah,
but
quotation
like,
marks.
You know, especially in left-leaning circles, right? There was a period of time where we were staying indoors for, you know, the greater part of a year. We weren't really going out.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, in the ways in which the online and political spheres of America have merged over the last 5 years, I think, you know, a lot of that is due to what happened during the COVID lockdowns. You know, you can talk about how billionaires became radicalized because they had to stay indoors and then saw everybody tweeting how much they hated them. And now they've all gone to decide to destroy the world. And I think this is kind of, you know, obviously that part's bad and that's not super funny. But what is funny is to like see this kind of like backlash of like, okay, yeah, everybody who is being online and also, you know, getting caught up to where Tumblr was in 2014 and using that kind of language because they've all been indoors and also watching one of the like biggest civil rights, you know, movements in America, you know, over the last couple decades, you know, in the George Floyd protests. So everybody's trying to like, you know, mobilize and use that language. And then it kind of spills out into culture, and we get it in this weird movie. I think that, I don't know that that is a 100% defensible stance, but I do think it is a funny way to read the cultural moment and context of this film's writing.
No, I completely agree with you on that reading. I mean, in terms of like COVID isolation, not to get hashtag too personal, but like I definitely went through my big like queer rebrand during those months, especially while I was like by myself in Texas, and the only person I really talked to was my neighbor at the time, and we were like co-isolating kind of thing. We were in, hashtag pod or whatever the fuck, people were referring to that kind of thing. And I remember I like went through this whole thing of like, okay, you're just inside with your thoughts all fucking day, right? And it's all you do. And I had this moment of clarity. I don't remember what the context was or what happened, because it was just all kind of a haze for me. But I remember like kind of figuring out that I was like, oh, I don't think I'm just bi. I'm like, that was the moment where I was like, I think there's something going on with my gender also, maybe. And I've kind of fluctuated around that topic for the last couple of years, where I've settled as kind of like just to the left of woman. But like COVID truly was the moment I like stopped overperforming femininity in like a forceful way, and I gave all my makeup to my friend who like her COVID thing was that she got into sex work. So I was like, hey, you're dancing, I need to get rid of all this makeup, here you fucking go. And I gave her like hundreds of dollars of like really nice makeup, and I myself just went through this like weird transformation, this cocoon, where I figured out what my vibe was over the last 3 or 4 years. But all that to say, I think being inside with your thoughts, like I have experienced that sort of being like, oh my God, everything is like so cis heteronormative, and like I'm just like existing outside of the binary, like absolutely I was thinking like that too in 2020, 2021. So this, considering, is not a shock to me that the first 10 minutes of this movie sounds like this. That being said, watching it in 2025, it's kind of fucking annoying.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of parts where like especially the interesting the intro part where after this point Noah leaves his apartment. He's late to get on the ferry to Fire Island. His phone's blowing up. All his friends are like, you got to get on the fucking boat, man, come on. He shows up just in the nick of time. He's able to get on, and we get introduced to the group of friends. We have the most important one, who is Howie, who is played by Bowen Yang. The only other there's one other major character here who is also Asian. But for the record, Noah is played by Joel Kim Booster. Their Asianness plays a central role in this. Yeah, then there's who are the other members of the team? There are Luke and Keegan. I believe Keegan is Keegan's black, right?
No, Keegan is very ambiguous. Keegan is the femme representation,
right?
In this friend group.
Keegan played by Kitty Bennett, no, not at all. Played by Tomas Matos, who, so that might, just based on the name, might be some sort of Hispanic representation there. And then Max is black. I remember that. Yes. Max, who is Torian Miller. Anyway, so like the point of all of that to say, it's a racially diverse friend group of gay men, which is important in the context of this film. But like they're all having these conversations, like when they're all on this boat and they're taking the boat over the Fire Island. Basically, they're a group of friends who got together because they all worked at the same like brunch restaurant essentially, and they started taking this annual trip to Fire Island to like go party and hook up with boys, and they do it every year, and they so that's what they're doing. They're repeating this ritual. But Howie is talking to Noah. Howie is he's 30 years old. He's never really had a boyfriend. He's a virgin. He's not, he's kind of like portrayed as like kind of a nerdy, like odd one out. He's not really, in this for the hooking up. He's just kind of going because his friends are going. And Noah and Howie have this conversation. I believe it's at this part where Noah swears to him, like, hey, man, I know that you feel kind of out of place here. I know that this is, like, not really your scene. But what if you listen to me? I will devote all my energy to getting somebody to have sex with you, essentially. And Howie's like, this is, he's like, I don't want that. I want something real. I want some real romance. And that's kind of the two positions that these characters take, right? Noah's just like, I just want to have sex and have fun and not really have a real relationship. And Howie is like, I want to have something real that means something and isn't kind of vapid and shallow. And this is where we get that kind of annoying conversations that we get, because we get Noah kind of flexing that, like we just had a 5-minute conversation about this, like social justice vocabulary, which is kind of annoying because I don't know that people, outside of like academic circles talk like that, or when academic circles and various Tumblr / Twitter circles, people trying to sound smart on the internet. So that is kind of what we are getting at here at the beginning.
People trying to sound smart and also trying to assign morality to benign opinions, right? The first 10 minutes of this movie, if not for Bowen Yang as Howie doing this extremely earnest, I want the rom-com thing, which, preach, king, I'm right there with you, I think would have been fucking unwatchable, and I would have turned it off. I will say there's a shot in this like intro sequence when they're getting to the house on Fire Island. There's a shot where Howie is sitting, they're like on a I don't know, like a boardwalk, a dam, I don't know what they're on, but they're overlooking like a little creek. And Howie is sitting there with his little sketchbook in his lap. And then Joel Kim Booster, as Noah is standing next to him, popped a bottle of champagne and lit a cigarette. And I was like, if that's not the two wolves inside of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Like, I am both the sad, tortured artist and also popping bottles into Club, lighting a cigarette. 100%. So I just saw that. I was like, yeah, I think that's it. That's me. So, but yeah.
Anyway, so we get to the point where they go out to this house, right? This is the last member of their group, named Erin, who is this like older lesbian woman who is kind of the house mom, played by Margaret Cho. Again, another Asian character, who is kind of like the centering force of this group. I kind of like her backstory, which is basically like she was able to win a huge settlement against a fast food company because there was glass in like a drink she bought or something, and like that's how she got all her money. That's like kind of a silly, like there are some fun throwaway gags here. They talk about Lyme disease. And the ticks they're on this island, which comes back at the end of the movie, which I think is very funny.
Oh, God, I didn't even make that connection.
Listen, I work in public health, so I immediately clocked that. It's just like, I like Erin a lot. I think Margaret Cho is doing a very much like motherly, I just got to take care of my boys type deal. And like later on, it comes like, she is very aware that the whole kind of situation between them is like, they only really hang out with her because she has this house on the island. And, even though they are very sweet with her, like she does kind of get that that's their relationship. And I think that is a pretty interesting way to play that character, is like, I'm doing this because, I love these people, but I also kind of understand where I stand with them. I think it's an interesting take on a character and kind of like grounds it in a real, a real feeling. Whereas a lot of this is kind of in between, like trying to do Pride and Prejudice and also in like a silly rom-com mode.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I like Margaret Cho. I like Margaret Cho a lot in general. I think she's a hoot. I always love to see her on screen. She also looks great in this movie. That fuck-ass bob looks good on her. But yeah, I also thought that was interesting. This movie has like moments of being really grounded in like very real things. And I think sometimes I wish they had pushed it in that direction. And like even the cinematography, there's some shots that are just like very cool and like like the framing is fun, or it kind of like pushes this like awkwardness or isolation that sometimes these characters experience. I wish they had pushed more in that direction, because I feel like the identity of this thing is kind of all over the place, just like structurally as a film. And the parts that I enjoy are the kind of more grounded and not fun, right? Not necessarily serious, but
right.
that don't feel like they're breaking the fourth wall to talk to me about gay culture.
Right. Yeah. I think that is a great way to put it, because like I do think this film is trying to kind of do like a, hey, only straight people have Hulu, so we have to do a lot of explaining to you. And like it is nice to have a character that's like this is actually, like kind of working with a real motivation that makes sense beyond like, hey, we're trying to just do something and trying to teach you.
This is completely baseless. But I do feel like in terms of like queer streaming service distribution, I do feel maybe HBO Max has the most queers.
Yes, I would say that.
But I think Hulu's right under that. Because the queers are not watching Netflix on Paramount. They might be on Netflix, but
no, you're right. Yeah, I misspoke. I'm sorry for slandering the queer community by saying none of you own Hulu. Definitely a Peacock, Paramount. That's not a queer friendly streaming service. Netflix is kind of in the baseline. But yeah, I do think
I feel like Netflix may be more before the password sharing crackdown.
That's true. Yeah. Once the password sharing stopped, I don't know. I feel like I know Netflix made a lot of money because people actually started paying for Netflix, but in my circles, which are a lot of queer people just stopped going to Netflix. So,
yeah, I certainly haven't. I don't pay for it.
Right. 100%. Anyway, at some point, we are 15 minutes into the movie. At some point, they're having this conversation near Aaron's pool, and Noah's phone gets knocked into the pool and removes his phone from the film, which I think is like, I like that actually. It's a very obvious move. It's like, okay, we're going to facilitate miscommunication and lengthen out the speed at which conversations have to happen just by destroying Noah's phone. And I think that's a smart thing, right? You see this a lot in a horror where it's like, oh, I don't have any cell service, or like, oh, this monster eats Wi-Fi or whatever. Like, I just think it's smart to establish right up front, like, hey, there's going to be some miscommunication stuff that could be solved by a phone call or a text. We're going to facilitate that on purpose.
It does two other things too, which one, it eliminates the need for the filmmakers to figure out how to do like text or worse social media overlays. And you kind of get away from this because a lot of movies like just have a really disingenuous interpretation of how social media works, either out of ignorance or like lack of wanting to actually research how these things go. So it eliminates that distraction and that risk. And it forces our Mr. Darcy, Will, to write a handwritten letter, which is peak fucking rom-com. And it is a Pride and Prejudice like thing, right? Mr. Darcy writes that letter. So I also really like it. It gives Joel Kim Booster an opportunity to bring up that he has an iPhone 6 in 2022, which I just really like as a kind of emphasis on how broke he is.
Yeah, it's a fun moment. So at this point where they're like, oh well, Aaron, you have so much money.
So sorry. One last thought on how broke he is. There's a line that is, I have to call it out because it is truly, it's such a throwaway line, but it is everything to me. He admits that he put this group trip on his Forever 21 credit card. And I think that's the funniest thing on planet Earth.
It's really good.
The funniest lines in this movie are total throwaways. Anyway, please go on.
No, I agree. You're right. That's pretty good. Yeah, so at this point where they're like, Aaron, why don't you just replace Noah's phone? Aaron bursts into tears, and they're like, hey, what the hell? And Aaron reveals that she was an early investor in Quibi, and as a result, all of her money is gone. And this is, she's going to have to sell the house, and this is their last time on Fire Island together. This is funny, one, because it makes a Quibi joke, which will be completely archaic and gone, probably by next year. No one will have ever heard of what Quibi is. But it is also a joke about the movie's production, because this was supposed to be a TV show on Quibi until Quibi sunk. And Joel Kim Booster was like, oh, fuck, well, I have to go pitch it somewhere else. So Searchlight took it up, but they kept this thing in there to be like, hey, you fucking idiots who lost all your money and almost ruined this TV show. Thankfully, it got turned into a movie. But yeah, extremely funny gag. I mean, what's Quibi gonna do?
Remind me how long Quibi quote-unquote episodes are supposed to be. It's like 5.
I want to say 8 minutes. I'm going to look this up. Okay, Quibi. The service targeted a younger demographic with content delivered in 10-minute episodes called Quick Bites, with the name Quibi derived from Quick Bites.
Oh,
man.
Okay, I wish I knew
Jeffrey
that going
Katzenberg,
in.
you dipshit. God.
I wish I knew that going in, because I wonder if you can smell that on the structure of this movie. And the reason I'm calling that out is because it's truly the first 10 minutes that are insufferable. And then, like, I wonder if it's in, like, it's written kind of in 10-minute vignettes.
I bet it is.
I do feel like they change locations
the
every
pacing,
10 minutes.
Yes, I do think the pacing supports that thesis. Because yeah, like they're at the party one night, or they're at the house one night, and then they're at the underwear party one night, and then they're doing the intro thing one night, and yeah, and there's like bits where Noah and Will get like more interaction. I mean, I think it's I don't think it maps 100%, but there are absolutely chunks where it's like there's just like a weird 10-minute sequence where a scene is happening, and maybe that's just how scenes work. I don't know how films are made, but like I think that's definitely defensible.
Wow, I'll have to next time I rewatch it, because I will rewatch this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a fun little comfort watch if you're in the mood for Pride and Prejudice, but you don't want to actually feel horribly lonely and cry, because Pride and Prejudice 2005 is too good. So wow, that's fascinating. Okay, cool. Wow.
Yeah, just a really funny thing. I was reading the Wikipedia. A lot of my fun facts come from the Wikipedia, and I was like, that's why that Quibi joke was in there, because I made note of it, because I was like, that's gonna date this movie, within 24 months of a certain time period, and it does.
Barely remember what the fuck it is. Like I truly, like, that line hit me, and then, like, on a delay I laughed, where I was like, oh yeah, Quibi, remember?
Listen, I never forgot.
Hashtag never forget.
Anyway, the group goes out to a party, basically, or like a dance or something, and they basically go out to start hooking up and meeting.
The tea dance, yeah. They gave us a whole history lesson on the tea dance.
Okay, yeah, that was actually, that was interesting for me as a straight person to be like, oh yeah, I'm glad they're doing queer history here. There's actually, I think when they are getting into this like shot of the tea dance, there was a shot of the island with the American flag and then 2 gay flags next to it that just like, it's like a 5-second shot. It's, completely like establishing the scene. But it does make me think like, this movie, it does make me think about how like this movie is the kind of thing that fucking all of the Pride or the Stonewall people were rioting for, right? The right to have kind of janky queer film.
The first brick was thrown for the right to a mid rom-com.
Mm-hmm. That's you can quote us on that.
Absolutely. That's what I would throw a brick for, mid rom-coms.
Absolutely. Anyway, this is where we get our introduction to our main love interest. So at this tea dance, we meet Charlie, who is like this. So he's a white doctor, a pediatrician, but he's like pretty charming, and he immediately takes an interest in Howie. And Noah kind of like facilitates them having this conversation, and basically pulls pulls Charlie into a conversation with Noah, and they kind of start hitting it off, which is nice. And also, while he is like going to go get a drink, Noah is like hit on by this guy who is like clearly an otaku in a gross way. And later on, it's mentioned that he has like 5 anime tattoos, which is a really good joke. He's like definitely he talks about, this is a thing that if you're an Asian person, you get this kind of racism, not all the time, thankfully, but we'll see how frequent this becomes in the future. But where people will just like kind of say out of pocket shit to you about Asians, and it's like, you feel very comfortable saying this, don't you? That's weird. You shouldn't feel comfortable talking to me like this. And that's one of the main parts of this movie, is having Noah experience this like weird racism in the queer community. But like as he's being hit on by this like fetishist, he drags over Will. He's like, "Oh, Will, my husband was just about to, help me out with something," and Will's like, "I don't know what's going on here." Completely fumbles the ball. Is such a cold fish, which is why I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is Mr. Darcy." I get it. Okay, because he's immediately so bad with people. I've only seen the 2005 Pride and Prejudice once, but like I did remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I took a screenshot of the first time you see the three of them. There's Charlie, there's Will, and there's the third guy who serves so fucking hard for the fact that I can't remember what his name is.
Is this the other guy in their group?
Yeah, the one in the
rich people group.
Yeah. The one with the chunky chain collar.
Is that Cooper?
Maybe, I don't know. Is it Cooper?
I don't remember anything about the other people in Charlie's group besides Charlie, Will, and then just the mean people.
Oh, Cooper serves so fucking hard. But anyway, Will is so hysterically emotionally constipated, and like the first time you see the three of them, like Cooper's like open shirt, abs oiled up, like super hot, just like standing there all swaggy. Charlie has that like beautiful, eager to please, like golden retriever energy, and he's just like there to be joyful and happy. Will standing ramrod straight next to them, almost staring right at the camera, just so fucking uncomfortable. And I was like, that would be the man for me. That's, I get it. Yeah, hell yeah. So yeah, a great introduction, and he absolutely fumbles the bag. It's very, very funny.
Yeah. It's very good. But because Charlie and Howie are kind of hitting it off, Charlie invites the rest of Howie's crew to this party at their house, and they go. And this is where they realize that like, Charlie's group is a bunch of like really rich guys, because their house is like 3 stories tall, and it's got a pool and multiple hot tubs, which Aaron's notably does not. And there's all sorts of nice alcohol to make a point of being like, oh, this alcohol hits harder than the bottom shelf stuff, which is actually not true in my experience. It's the bottom shelf stuff that is worse and hurts you more. Basically, they're hitting it off, but like they're also being condescended to. All of Charlie's friends, not Charlie and not Will, but like Charlie's kind of shitty friends are like, who do you know here? Oh, why are you here? Oh, y'all probably don't know about this nice alcohol. So all the other members of the crew who like don't get a lot of screen time, Keegan and Max and Luke don't get a whole lot of screen time. We're not going to be mentioning them much, even though Luke comes back to play an important role here at the end. But they're kind of just going off and getting drunk and eating all their nice cheese, and like trying to bring the cheese into the hot tub, which is an extremely funny drunk move. Like I could absolutely see me doing that in a situation where I'm nervous and uncomfortable. It's just like, I just need to get in a hot tub with some cheese.
Yeah, just be warm and comfy and full. Yeah, I mean, like that. If a bunch of bitchy rich people invited me to a party and then made me feel uncomfortable, I would absolutely be drinking all their nice tequila. Are you kidding me? Like. Yeah, okay, I'm here though, so deal with it. They're all extremely stuck up and very funny. There is the important stuff happens at this party, but I do just like, there is a scene where Noah comes back to the house in the daytime and Cooper greets him, and he is wearing this. Actually, we'll come back to it with the thing. Just ignore me. I'm picturing the look in my mind, and it is so cunty, it's distracting me. So let's finish because important shit happens here. This is a big Pride and Prejudice moment.
Yeah. This is the part where Lizzie Bennet gets offended by Darcy because she, hears Darcy saying something rude about her family or whatever. But like in this instance, Noah is like peeing or whatever.
he does effectively say what Will says here, just in Jane Austen, cadence.
Yeah. So, Will is talking to Charlie about, Noah and Noah's crew and be like, hey, I think that, your friend Bowen Yang is using you. All his friends are just like trying to drink your alcohol. And then Charlie's like, no, they're fun. They're quirky. You're being too harsh. And he's like, what about Noah? It seemed like you guys had a moment there. And then he says, Noah is fine, but not hot enough to be that annoying, which is an incredible slam.
This is kind of where I wish that this movie took a little bit more liberty with the adaptation. It is like a pivotal line for Mr. Darcy to be like, it's something, I can't remember what the specific wording is, but it's like, she's not nearly so handsome. Like the word handsome is used. So he does like say this effectively. But it doesn't make sense for Will to say this because he then 2 sentences later scolds people that go to Fire Island for being superficial. So it like doesn't really make sense for him to be like, oh, he's not hot enough to be that annoying, and then be like, everyone here is just superficial and sucks and blah blah blah. Like I think they could have thought of something just as effective that maybe fit his character a little bit better, because I think I like Will a lot as a character. I like Will a lot as Mr. Darcy, and also the actor who plays him, I think, does an incredible job. He looks so constipated fucking constantly. He's so uncomfortable. But once he starts kind of loosening up and showing some joy, like, it's infectious. He's a really great performer. It is an incredible vibe. But there's a big chasm between how the character is written in terms of dialogue and how the character reads when he is played. And I much prefer the way that this actor plays this character than some of the dialogue he is given to work with that feels like it's been kind of weirdly tacked on. This line really stood out. It felt like it was ADR'd even. Like it didn't feel like it was said on the set. So yeah, it's like a pivotal Pride and Prejudice moment for the Lizzie character to overhear the Mr. Darcy character say some fuck ass shit. But I don't know. This didn't work for me. This reading.
I mean, like, I'm less attached to Pride and Prejudice. I thought it was completely fine. I don't have strong feelings about it. But it does, your point does make me think about a broader point that I had about this whole film. Does the Pride and Prejudice analogy serve this film? Like, would it have been better served if they just, like, kind of did Pride and Prejudice, but without, saying that they were doing Pride and Prejudice? Because, like, I think when you come out with saying, like, hey, this is a queer adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, it does kind of box you in, and your audience will start looking for those certain things, right? So, like, that is, perhaps why they made this sequence so blunt and perhaps, not quite fit the character as well. And I do wonder, I think that, like, ultimately it probably was worth it just from a marketing standpoint, right? A queer retelling of Pride and Prejudice does so much more, as a tagline and as a way to generate buzz than, like, a queer explanation of, a queer rom-com, right? This is a much sharper pitch. But I also don't know that, like, being pitched as queer Pride and Prejudice is the ultimately a more effective. I feel like it might have constrained them in ways that didn't help the film overall.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, because the weakest part, I think if you took all of Joel Kim Booster's narration out of the film, it would already be a lot stronger. I didn't really like the narration stuff. And I think the gay Pride and Prejudice thing is actually not to go back to this, I think it's a better marketing strategy for a Quibi show, right? To say, hey, have you seen the gay Pride and Prejudice on Quibi? And then you have these, like, episodic things that at least once per episode hit a beat of Pride and Prejudice, right? That is enough of a hook to get people in. When we're talking about, I think you could have marketed this as just like a fun gay rom-com. I think we do run into the problem of the fact that studios don't want to market their movies anymore. They don't want to put there's articles going around right now where the new Pixar movie Elio is like from what I'm reading from reviews, it's like a hit. Like, people really love it. They think it's really earnest and sweet. I want to watch it. I'm curious. But it wasn't marketed. I had no idea it was out. Like, it wasn't marketed at all, and now Pixar's calling it a flop. And I think we've been seeing this for years, where studios don't want to market their original content anymore. And then they're like, whoa, it's flopping. It's like, well, gee, I wonder why. No one knows it's out. So I do think if it's not gay Pride and Prejudice, that is less catchy and would pique people's interest a little bit less. But that being said, right, this is where we get into the intersection of like, what is commercial art and what are the constraints placed upon it. I think if you made this without those constraints, I do think it would have been better without the Pride and I think it could have still been referential to Pride and Prejudice for sure. But I think freeing itself a little bit from that structure would have served this rom-com a little bit better because I think, yeah, it just boxed itself in like you're 100% right. It just boxed itself in a weird way.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on, right? After this party kind of dies down, Noah goes home, wakes up the next morning, and realizes that Howie's still not there. So he goes and picks up Howie from... Yeah, sexy. He goes and picks up Howie from the rich people house. They're still mean to him, but he's like, I saw you last night, fuck off. Don't do your, like, who are you thing.
This is where Cooper funny. Comes out in that fucking... Oh my God, I'm thinking about this look forever. Cooper comes out, again... Abs, 12-pack, muscular, oiled up, fucking floppy hair. Versace Speedo. Versace robe. Serve, bitch. Like, he is evil and annoying, but that golden-ass fucking Versace look, I was like, okay... fashion. Like, I know no one in my friend group appreciates fashion. I'm the only person. But it just like, I don't know, man. It's stuck in my mind. That gold robe and it's textured with that Versace fucking pattern and the matching pattern on the serve. Anyway, I just thought it was a good moment. I liked him on the top of that fucking staircase. Golden and resplendent and mean.
I have to admit, whenever there was a scantily clad man on screen, I did like tab over to something else. I truly was just in like my homophobic, like, I don't want to see naked dudes. Like, it's fine. You know, I'm happy for them. But I was like, I'm going to go look at Blue Sky for a little bit.
You know what? I forgive you. You gave up your religion for us, for our plight. So I think you've done enough. I'll forgive you.
I'm happy for you all. It's just not for me.
I don't even think it's homophobia. I think you're just a prude. I think it's the Catholic like discomfort. It's like a deeply Catholic discomfort around expression and nudity that is manifesting itself. Maybe like and you know, I love that. I love this journey for you. Thank you so much for freely admitting this on Beyonce's internet. The penultimate day of Pride.
God, I mean, yeah.
That's okay.
This episode, this podcast is getting to be so long that it might well be still like a thing we should pitch to Quibi, because we are getting 10-minute chunks of different conversations. all of which are very important.
Hey man, it's your week to edit. You can cut half the shit.
It's all staying it.
Great. Good.
So
my stomach hurts.
Howie goes, or Noah goes to check on Howie. You know, Howie's like, I didn't actually end up hooking up with Charlie. I got too drunk, but Charlie stayed here with me in the bathroom and like rubbed my shoulders, and it was kind of sweet. And as a thank you for taking care of Howie, Noah and Howie invite Charlie's crew over to Erin's for dinner. And Erin is extremely funny. Her response is like, why the fuck did you throw this at me? You know, like, why would you spring a dinner party on me last minute? And then Noah's like, Erin, you love hosting dinner parties. It's actually like one of the most stressful things about being friends with you. Which I think is really funny.
Oh, man. I see that in my future when I adopt a motley crew of gay teens.
Yeah, that's 100%. But like, so Erin sends them off to basically the local grocery store to get like some stuff for this party. And while they're at this grocery store, actually in the middle of denting cans to get a discount on them, which is really funny, he meets this guy called Dex. And Dex is like a conventionally attractive white man, but he like kind of hits it off with Noah, and they discuss like reading. He mentions the ethical slut. This is a thing that they bond over. Noah's reading. And while they're going back, they're kind of having a good time. They like bump into Will, and Will and Dex have some sort of weird energy between them. Noah senses this, and he's kind of pissed off at Will for having said that thing about him being annoying. So he's like, "Hey, you know what, Dex? Why don't you come down to the party too? So that way, you and Will can be in the same room, and I will get to watch you all bounce off each other in an annoying way," which is a funny thing to do. It's mean, but I love it.
He also, in talking to Dex, they're like talking about their like backstories or whatever, and another very funny throwaway line is Joel Kim Booster's talking about his parents. He's like, "Yeah, and that's why I'm so fucking annoying." I was like, it is so deeply relatable to me to like get one. If somebody says one thing about you and then you defensively bring it up all the fucking time. Like, if somebody called me annoying, I too would be like, I'm reclaiming being annoying. Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, that's why I am so fucking annoying, actually, and it's my right to be annoying. Like, I get it. I relate to that impulse, King. Fucking go off. Reclaim being annoying.
100%. So at the party, we get some stuff. Dex comes over to the party. Everybody starts hanging out. Charlie and his crew come over, and they're kind of snooty about their smaller house. They play a game. It's like one of those games where you have to like guess a thing, and you hold something on your phone, and you try to guess like a category or a name or something. And Will is very bad at it because he is not like a very sociable guy. But Will and Noah do talk about books again. It's kind of like a shorthand for showing that Noah is, that's kind of like Noah's thing, is knowing how to read, which like, I don't know about this as just like Noah being well read as a character trait. It's fine. But like, it's just kind of a shorthand for giving him something to do in scenes. But like, basically, Will is bad at this game, and he eventually like kind of ends up leaving after a little while. He's uncomfortable with Dex being there, and Dex tells Will, or Dex tells Noah that Will doesn't like him because Dex runs an OnlyFans page, and Noah's like, "Oh, that makes so much sense. He's so snooty and gatekeepy, and he sucks." Sure, that's fine. But Charlie and Howie are still hitting it off. Sure, whatever. So Noah's like, "You know what? You and Howie are doing great. Why don't you go have sex tonight at the underwear party, which is a famous other party that happens at this event on Fire Island." And then like at some point, Cooper like confronts Noah about Will and is like, "Hey, Will's going to be my starter boyfriend, so you should just back off him," which is weird, but like, sure, I get it, whatever.
He's moving to LA, and Charlie brought Will out because Will lives in LA. Charlie brought Will out, and then Cooper's like, "Yeah, he's gonna be. I'm gonna need a starter boyfriend when I move to LA," which is the most LA fucking sentiment I've ever heard in my entire life. That culture is alien to me.
Listen,
so
we all hate Californians on Mortified Pod.
I love one Californian, but that Californian is a Jersey boy, so...
That's right. Michelangelo, you're exempt from our hatred of Californians. All the Californians in the tabletop space who listen to this podcast, which I think is maybe less than one. Sorry.
Gavin Newsom, it's on site.
Gavin...
We're fist fighting under the flagpole, Gavin.
Mm-hmm. So at this party... Noah is like, they're all kind of having fun. They all take drugs. There's a fun sequence where they all take various drugs. I believe one of them takes a drug that they just found on the floor, which is really funny.
Random pill Luke found on the floor. There's G, there's K, there's fucking poppers involved. Like, truly just pocket full of drugs.
There's a funny scene where Max is like, "Oh, I'm not actually going to be doing any drugs tonight," and then nobody says anything. He's like, "Wait, y'all are going to try to pressure me to do drugs?" And they're like, "No." Which I do think is the most, it is a very funny thing to be like, we grew up, I think we just missed the Dare era.
No, I was in it.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. But yeah, a bunch of, basically all the messaging was like, people are going to pressure you to do drugs in high school and college. It's like, some of them might if they suck, but mostly they don't want to give you free drugs because drugs are expensive.
Drugs are so expensive. Yeah, I've never been pressured to. I think, well, I think I'm one of the only children Dare worked on. And I blame my neurodivergent Riz, because if you tell me to do anything, I just kind of follow instruction. And they were like, don't do drugs. And I said, bet. But then in adulthood, I figured out I have a hypersensitivity to THC. You can't really do weed. But yeah, I can't say anyone has ever pressured me to do drugs in my lifetime.
Yeah, like the most pressure I've ever had is to like drink alcohol, and it wasn't like to get fucked up. It was just like to drink socially. And it's not that big a deal.
No.
Yeah, I think it is very funny that both the hosts of this podcast are like people who can't do drugs. It makes a lot of sense. For me, whenever I've done weed, I've been like, I am not being productive. I feel how my inability to do work right now, and it's making me really mad. And that's why I can't do drugs, because I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to be like this forever, and I'm not going to be able to write my essays now. And that's going to be I'm just wasting time. I'm just wasting time, and it drives me insane.
I famously went to the hospital.
Yes, and you got so high you went to the hospital, which is still a funny story that I tell people.
I got so high I went to the hospital, and the only thing keeping me grounded was hate watching James Cameron's Avatar.
Godspeed.
Godspeed.
So at this underwear party, eventually Noah starts hooking up with Dex. Dex finds him. They go into a back room to have sex. And like halfway through the sex, Charlie sees, not Charlie, Noah sees Charlie. Yes?
I'm sorry, halfway through the sex is just a really funny turn of phrase.
It is true. I mean, Noah is like kind of chowing down, and then kind of like opens his eyes and is like, hey, wait, that's Charlie over there, mouthful of balls. And like, he stands up, which is very funny, and hits Dex in the face, and Dex is like, ow, 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 and they have to like, stop him from, getting a bloody nose, which is very good. But then Noah goes and sees Charlie with Charlie's ex, Reese, and Cooper makes a point to be like, oh yeah, we flew Reese in last night, so that way Charlie would be distracted from your friend Howie. And Noah's really upset. He goes to find Howie. Howie is like pretty upset too, but like he's also high, so he's having a difficult time being upset, which I think is a pretty funny framing.
He's also sitting in one of those gigantic oversized pool chairs, like the really, really big ones. So and Bowen Yang is not a very large man. So he's just drowning like a toddler in this giant chair on MDMA trying to be upset. It's a very good visual.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, it seems like Howie's upset. All of the friends are having bad reactions to the drugs. So Noah is like trying to scrape them all together. And then for whatever reason, they leave without him. And they lose Howie. And Noah is like trying to find Howie. He runs into Will. And Will's like, okay, hey, the last taxi, your friend's left. Let me try to help you find your friend Howie or whatever. And this is where we get the scene in the rain, right? This is the famous scene where Darcy first tries to propose to Lizzie Bennet. And it's just like, hey, you hate me. What the fuck's happening here? It's an all-time scene. It's very funny. They kind of do it here where like Will like tries to kiss Noah after like having some sort of argument with him. And Noah's like, what is happening? Which I think it was fine. It worked for what they were doing. But like, I find a lot of the arguments in this movie contrived. Like, I don't know, besides the annoying comment, I don't really know why Noah and Will have this fight in this moment.
I don't either. It's a very weird fight. I would have preferred they simplify. It felt like too much. They could have simplified it to just like, hey, I find you condescending and unpleasant. And that would have been good enough. But it just kind of, I'm like stuck on this Quibi framing. Well, I think between the Quibi and the boxing themselves into the Pride and Prejudice, the structure of this movie is worse for those two things.
I agree. Yeah, again, I think they have their uses, but it is, you could definitely tell that there are some choices that they wouldn't have necessarily been made if they had started from a different place, if they were trying to make this a movie from the jump.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so anyway, this is where we get, eventually Noah takes off, leaves Will. Will's like, shoot, I blew it. And Noah goes to confront Howie, and Noah is like, I guess trying to convince Howie that things aren't all, ruined with Will or whatever. Or not with Will, with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the part where Noah and Howie get into the fight, right?
Yes.
Okay. You in your notes, you said that this really worked for you. It didn't do anything for me. Can you talk about it, from your perspective?
Yeah. So the reason this fight, a lot of this movie tries to reference tensions in specifically the gay community and how vapid and what's the word? Superficial it can be. And the tension between Noah and Howie is that Noah, I can't remember what the cause of this was. Maybe it was like a breakup or something. But Noah basically just got really jacked and, became quote unquote the ethical slut and took, in his own words, took a bunch of power back about his own self-confidence. And his idea for this Fire Island sort of retreat is to give Howie some of that power by sort of wingmanning him and making sure that he can have a hookup with someone and that he can feel sexy and powerful. So the intent is good, but the tension here is that Howie is just an average looking guy. And namely I don't know, 3% above average size. I would not call Bowen Yang chubby by any means,
No,
just
that's
average.
Kind of why this kind of fell apart for me. There is no world in which I think of Bowen Yang as an unattractive. I was reading through the Wikipedia, they mentioned Bowen Yang having this body dysmorphia, or Howie rather having this body dysmorphia. And I was like, that didn't come through to me at all. I was like, what are you talking about? He's just a guy.
It is pushed. It works in the sense that I think the standards for gay men are a lot higher, especially when you're on this island and everyone has, I think they specifically quote 3% body fat, and everyone's jacked to hell. And so
what is the phrase? No fats, no femmes, no
fats,
Asians?
no femmes, no Asians. Yeah, there you go. That's a popular Grindr, or at least at the time, right? That's a thing you see on Grindr apparently all the time. I would not know. But it really works for me because it's one of those moments where Bowen Yang as Howie gets to be earnest, and to be hey, you wanted that kind of power and that kind of attention, and so you did this to yourself. You worked out, you got this body. He's that's not me, that's not what's important to me, and now you have forced me into this situation where you've made that a goal for me, and now it's ruining this entire thing, and I feel horrible because of this whole Charlie thing. So in that sense, it really worked for me, and I think the exaggerated standards for what a gay man's body should look like is the reason that argument works for me. But I think if you're not coming from that point of cultural, I guess, background or reference or understanding or whatever the word is, context is the word. If you're not coming from a background of that cultural context, then I think this falls a little bit flatter because, again, Bowen Yang is just a normal average size man.
Yeah. So
if this was a conversation with Max, right, that would read different because Max is bigger, but it's just Joe Booster, who is slightly buff, talking to Bowen Yang, who is normal.
Yeah. So, I think part of it is truly just I am coming from a different frame of reference, and this didn't hit quite as hard for me.
Frame of reference is what I was fucking looking for. Yeah.
Listen, context, frame of reference is all the same.
It's awesome.
We make up words all the time.
Sure.
Anyway, they try to make him feel better. The rest of Noah's crew, they take Howie to a drag bar and they do karaoke, which is really sweet. This is the part where we get Lyme disease, or rather, Reese gets Lyme disease. Leyla has just spit their drink all over their keyboard. We go off schedule for 1 week, and we've completely lost the plot.
I swallowed the whole thing. I didn't spit a drop.
Okay, yeah, that's actually going to be the cold open for this episode.
We haven't done a cold open in like 2 years.
Basically, at this point, Charlie explains to Noah that, Reese was his boyfriend, and it seems like, he still has feelings for him, but also he has Lyme disease, so he's leaving now, which is very funny. This is where we get the letter you mentioned earlier. Will sends Noah a letter that's like, hey, Dex hurt one of my friends before. That's why I feel weird about him. Whatever he said to you, that's actually why I'm apprehensive about him. And then, like, there's a bit where, Noah's like, well, that's weird. But then he goes ahead and runs into Will later. And Will does probably the funniest thing in this movie, which is like he's eating a little ice cream cone when he sees Noah, and he throws the ice cream cone into the ground and then sprints away. And then Noah just kind of like grimaces and then follows him. And then he's like, hey, man, why did you just literally run away from me?
Perfect moment, no notes.
Yeah. And this is where they like have a conversation and they hash out their disagreements, and then Noah's like, you're such a stuck up, cold fish, why don't you prove to me you can have a little fun? He convinces basically coerces Will into doing like a dance off, and the drag queen kind of roasts him the whole time because he is like kind of a bad dancer, but it's funny. And they like hang out on the beach for a while. And they make a point in this movie to be like, time is weird on Fire Island. So like time, like this whole thing takes place over the course of a week. But like, this, I think they especially like lengthen this scene to make it seem like they spent more time together than just like this like, couple hour moment that it seems like they have. But basically they're showing like, hey, Will and Noah are kind of coming around on each other, which I think is nice.
Yeah, the moments in which they get to be sweet to each other are nice. They're cute rom-com moments. And again, I just really like that actor who plays Will. I think he's like, when he has this really infectious glow to him that when he kind of lights up, you want to light up. You're like, oh, you got a sweet little vibe around you. So I think without Bowen Yang and without Will, I don't know if I would like this movie. Those performances really carry it for me. And yeah, Cooper serves so fucking hard.
Sure. So after this, Noah, one of Noah's crew, Luke, is like, hey, I hooked up with Dex earlier and we had a good time. But then Aaron shows that he's, gets sent a video of Luke and Dex having sex, and Luke's like, I don't remember saying that was cool. And that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, okay, he's like making videos of people without them knowing. That's fucked up. That's not cool. Noah vows to kill Dex, and then runs into Will on the way to go murder him. And Will also vows to kill Dex, which is fun. Together they go, and because Will is a lawyer, he's like, hey, Dex, you're making revenge porn, actually, and you could be in jail if you don't delete all your shit, which, like, is later revealed to be like kind of a lie. But it's he uses his lawyer powers for good, makes him delete his videos, and then Noah's like, also your Instagram, go ahead and delete that too, which is very funny because they make a point of being like, showing that Dex has like stop Asian hate and Black Lives Matter like hashtags on like photos of his naked body, like he's trying to get attention with these thirst traps with these like activism hashtags, which is very funny. So he makes him delete that Instagram. Yeah, and that's how we get the reveal that Dex is not a good guy.
There are two moments in which the narration does actually work for me in this movie. This moment where Luke makes Noah promise not to do anything insane, and he's just like, just get him to take the video down. Like, don't do anything crazy. Don't be you about it. And it was like, okay. And then in the narration goes, I'm going to kill him. And then meeting Will, having Will say, I'm going to kill him, and then chasing after him. That really worked for me. The other moment that it worked for me was when he was turbo on drugs and about to go fuck Dex. And he makes like in the narration makes like a mission accomplished joke, and he goes, and you know who said that? And then out loud, no context in the middle of this party, just goes, George W. Bush. That really got me.
That was really good. I like that bit a lot.
Yeah, we love
I just like the idea.
Joke.
I love the idea of just somebody saying George W. Bush out loud, free of context. Anyway, the movie is wrapping up at this point. Howie is planning to leave the island and gets on the boat to leave. He reconciles with Noah. Noah's like, we're still buddies. I'll come out to hang out with you sometime. We don't have to like have this, go on this sex party thing. We could just be friends. And eventually, as Noah's leaving, or Charlie's leaving, as Howie's leaving, Noah goes to confront Charlie. He's like, hey, Charlie, your dude's leaving. You better go do a big romantic gesture. Otherwise, you're never going to be with him. And all of Charlie's friends are like, oh, you think that, your little friend was going to get with Charlie? And Charlie's like, oh, you guys kind of suck. And ditches them together with Noah's crew, Charlie, and them. They steal a water taxi. They come on out to the other side of the island.
They kidnap a bunch of lesbians is what they do.
Okay, yeah.
That water taxi is full of lesbians, and they just steal those women.
Yeah, listen, we don't approve of stealing women, but, when it's other gay people doing it, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, if the government stole me, I would not be happy. However, if a beautiful, tall, buff woman wants to steal,
There we go. They sail back to the mainland, so as Charlie is as Howie is getting off the boat, Charlie comes in, they, pull into dock, and then they have, honestly, one of the better, love confession scenes, because they're like, hey, Noah's like, hey, you have to do it, you have to make this work really good, and then Charles like, Howie, I love you, and then everybody's like, oh, no, too much.
Dial it back.
Even Howie's like, no, we're not there yet, try again. And they get to a part, he talks about his actual feelings, and they do kiss, and that's nice. And then, later on, Noah and Will also, get together, and they kiss, and it's nice. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. I am glad that the Howie and Charlie romance was I think this is also where the Pride and Prejudice framing breaks down. I'm really glad that the Howie and Charlie romance was there to be that rom-com-y, one true love sort of, thing, because Noah's whole thing, and again, this is where this is the confluence of all my problems with this movie. This is also where what Will says and what Will does doesn't make sense to me, because this whole movie is Noah being like, oh, I'm the ethical slut, and monogamy doesn't work for me, and it's oppressive and whatever. It's the monogamy industrial complex. And then Will has not had eyes for anyone else during this movie but Noah. He has been very in Noah's, there's no boyfriend at home, there's nothing. And then he just has this weird line where he's just like, oh, I don't know if monogamy's for me. And then at the same time, the thing that he wants is the two old men dancing next to them on the dock. He's like, well, I want that. I want to be dancing with somebody when I'm old, on the dock. I'm like, okay, so this is a complete mishmash of ideas and I'm not really sure where this is going. And I think if you didn't have... Listen, no hate to my poly friends. Y'all do you. It's just not for me. And therefore, when I am watching a rom-com as my beautiful escapist fantasy, I am looking for the monogamous, one true love sort of 2000s vibe, right? The impractical sort of thing. And I think that if this had ended in that weird, they're together, but it's not it's that weird vibe of we're together and we're getting our big romantic ending, but we're also committed to being non-monogamous. I don't think I would have been satisfied with that as a matter of taste. So I am really glad that the Howie and Charlie thing was there, because what I am looking for is the big bombastic rom-com, Pride and Prejudice thing. And again, the whole point of Pride and Prejudice is that, yes, Lizzie gets Mr. Bennett to be like, hey, I am being overprotective of my friend. And, nope, not Mr. Bennett. Mr. Darcy. Lizzie gets Mr. Darcy to be like, hey, I am being overprotective of my friend. Your sister can totally marry my friend. It's chill and cool. And also, we should get married. And they also have that big romantic ending where they get married and are together forever. So I think the framing of Pride and Prejudice breaks down for me a little bit here, because if you're telling me this is gay Pride and Prejudice, you didn't do enough legwork for the anti-monogamy thing for it to not just feel a little bit weird and disappointing that they're not together forever getting married. You know what I mean? Like, it's the confluence of all of these little problems for me where this ending just, it doesn't like spark joy as much as I want it to.
Yeah.
For a Pride and Prejudice adaptation.
Yeah, I do think, yes. Like, I think that is the problem with the Pride and Prejudice framing again. It is not quite mapped onto the same, narrative and romantic beats. So, like, it does feel like a slight, stutter there at the end. It's fine, but it is a little bit incoherent.
Yeah. Also, the pacing's weird. Again, I think it's the Quibi thing. But the pacing is weird because the last couple of beats of this movie kind of break down pacing-wise. I think it could have moved a little bit at a clip. Because at one point I looked at the time, I was like, oh, Jesus, there's still 20 minutes of this movie.
Right, yeah. But, hey, this was made on a budget of $10 million. Like, they did pretty darn good for having such a small budget and such a weird framework. And, for all the criticisms we have of this movie, in our current political era, it just feels so silly to be like, yeah, honestly, I think the pacing was kind of bad. When it's like, I don't know, right? How are we supposed to have criticism of queer media at a time like this? Like, it feels ridiculous. I want us to be in a place where we can be like, hey, this movie was kind of, okay. But yeah, I don't know. This whole time, whenever I have a gripe with this, it's like, there are people who want to make this illegal, which is so silly to have a film as inoffensive as this to be illegal. So I don't want to, say that out loud, like at the very end, like, for all of our criticism of this, we want to live in a world where we can talk about how, the mistakes of this movie and not this to be like a crime to distribute.
If you like cheesy, fun, silly rom-coms, you should watch this movie. You would have a great fucking time. It's a joy to the eyes. It's well shot. That being said, the best episodes of Mortified are the ones where something is almost good and we spend an hour and a half talking about it. So, as a gay person who is determined to have fun on this penultimate day of Pride when we're recording, I reserve my right to be a little bitch. And I think this movie could have been a little better to make me personally happy and appeal to me. But it didn't appeal to me because it was made for a different audience. And that's fine. I still had a great time because I love rom-coms and I love Bo and Yang. And I'm glad I inflicted this movie on you. We found some personal revelations about what the two of us are comfortable with as a matter of what we're watching. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really fun time. But I don't know. I watched K-pop Demon Hunters over the last weekend too. It was a fun time. But I then sat and thought about how structurally weak it was. And I reserve that as a right. One last anecdote, because Pride, I can say whatever the fuck I want. I went to Pride with a bunch of coworkers of mine. And I looked around at some point and I realized that every single person gathered there was a bisexual. And it was the busybody, over-organized, hyper-competent bisexuals that rallied for Pride. And as a busybody, competent, hyper-organized bisexual, I reserve my right to think a little too hard about light entertainment. And that's my story.
Amen.
Amen.
Leyla, when we are not analyzing and drawing out conversations on media that was almost good, where can we be found on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Blue Sky. And Tumblr, where I'm currently playing Rogue Trader. So if you want to hear me talk about Rogue Trader, I'm posting about that every once in a while. I think it's my favorite CRPG of the decade. If you want my Rogue Trader builds, you could also contact me for that fucking spreadsheet. I spent 6 hours on it, and I'm not even done. So you can have my builds if you want. Otherwise, I am working on my Lies of P case study. And slowly chipping away at webcomic things in the background, which I mostly at this point say just to keep myself accountable. It'll drop one day like a Beyonce album. It'll be with no fanfare. It'll just be like a PDF somewhere. So yeah, whatever. It'll happen someday. What about you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at AA Voigt, Tumblr at Monster Factory Fanfic. But my YouTube channel is at AA Voigt, where I write about tabletop RPGs. Hopefully by the time this podcast goes out, I'll have a video out on 3 tabletop-ish games that are adaptations of Ursula K. Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. And I talk about how, like, by making those adaptations playable, they are offering different spins on the Omelas story, which has already been done to death a million times. So, I think if you're interested in any sort of literature, please check that out. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshco from the album Filmmaker's Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshco.bandcamp.com. Leyla, how shall we close out this 2025 season of Pride?
Well, Aaron, I'd like to take us out on a couple of affirmations. Namely, I am fine and smart and worth it.
That is so true, bestie. We'll see you all next time.